Our lives are filled with choices at almost every moment. What we choose to wear, what we choose to eat, how we choose to spend our time, how we choose to live our lives. Throughout the course of history, we've often associated an array of choices available to us with how free we feel. This is a freedom that exists through our belief that we have the ability to make the best choice possible to suit our needs and wants. But what if the answer to our happiness was actually the opposite? That with less choices, we can derive a greater sense of satisfaction. This is where psychologist Barry Schwartz comes in. Barry Schwartz wrote about the negative consequences of having too many options in his 2004 book, The Paradox of Choice: Why More is Less. In the book, Schwartz explores the stress that people feel when confronted with ample opportunity, and the regret that follows from making poor choices. He also discusses our loss of living in the moment. This is when we ask ourselves, why am I doing this when I could be doing that? It also addresses our raised expectations with a plethora of choices and our diminished sense of self that comes from comparing our choices with the choices of others. At first thought, one would think that having several options should mean that people could ultimately make the choice that they really want. However, in reality, a large selection of items with a variety of benefits and drawbacks can make it very hard for people to choose among them. That difficulty can cause people anxiety that persists while they evaluate options or prolong the process beyond what is necessary. And then once their choices have been made, people often still cause themselves stress by worrying that they made the wrong decisions. Schwartz discusses that there are two styles of decision makers initially identified in the 1950s. They are maximizers and satisficers. A maximizer is someone who is driven to make the best possible choice, which may mean that they evaluate options exhaustively and yet ultimately may be less satisfied with their ultimate choice than someone who did less research. A satisficer is a portmanteau created from the words satisfy and suffice. Satisficers are practical individuals who are content to choose options that adequately meet their requirements. They don't waste their time thinking about their options or regret choices that they've already made. Schwartz has mentioned that a simple way to find out whether you are a maximizer or a satisficer is to ask yourself a simple question: true or false? I never settle for second best. If true, you are a maximizer and likely overwhelmed. If false, you are a satisficer and are quite content with something that simply meets your needs. As a maximizer, you go through analysis paralysis, where you tend to go back and forth on a decision, overthinking and analyzing, so much so that you can get paralyzed in that decision and not really act upon anything. This is where a decision-making framework like the OODA loop would come in handy. Check out my previous video on that if you'd like to know more. I'll leave a card up top and link it right down below the like button for you. Any choice we make requires a bunch of work to go into it. Thinking about whether it's the best option, what that choice will result in, how we will feel, etc. So while it may seem like the menu that you are ordering from has so much that you could pick from, it can actually become a little nauseating because you want to get the perfect combination of dishes so that you'll enjoy your meal as well as you can. Think about that feeling in relation to when you order food from a set menu. Even though you may not be completely aware of it, that set menu provides you with a sense of freedom. Freedom from the stress of that unnecessary decision making. This is even more extreme when you go to your local supermarket to simply get, say, cereal. There are literally hundreds of brands for you to choose from. This reminds me of a scene from the Oscar winner The Hurt Locker, where the lead character returns to civilian life after his tour in the war and is completely overwhelmed by the choices of cereal that he has in front of him. The world today has more choices than ever. In comparison to 100 years ago, the general store would simply have one brand for every product. And so that process of making a choice was completely non-existent. Make no mistake that this does not just apply to consumer goods. There are many options open to us, but that leaves us constantly asking ourselves whether we chose the correct option. We're constantly faced with endless choices about the careers that we want to pursue, or the lives that we want to live. Do you want to get married, or focus on your career, or travel the world? The options are limitless, and our constant fear of missing out pressures us to make the best choices we possibly can at every moment. So what happens when you understand the existence of the paradox of choice and its prominence in our lives? Well, if you're aware of the effects that a choice has on you, you can begin to subvert it. You can start to stress less over small decisions and be more resolute in larger decisions. Simply put, it comes down to choosing when to make choices. It may just help to know that there are some times when you really do not need to care as much, and there are times when you need to devote time and attention in order to guarantee the best outcome possible. Sometimes it may be more fulfilling to be a satisficer and simply go with what appears to be adequate, instead of exhausting ourselves over whether the choice that we're making is better than any option that we could ever pick. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.